Mother's Day has me thinking about patriarchy and the power of women and why a patriarchal society needs for women to be weak. I'm your host, Naomi, and this is Mosaic in Progress. Patriarchy is a really difficult thing to talk about as a woman in a heteronormative relationship. Because anytime I talk about it, I feel like I'm bashing my husband. And my husband is a good man. But it kind of hit me earlier, sometime last week, I think, how little that means. And I don't mean this in any way disrespecting him. I just mean in general what we mean as women when we say that someone is a good man. And it's not to say that anyone who has received that label isn't, but the standard we have for calling someone a good man as women is pretty low. Generally, when you talk to a woman and she'll talk about someone as being a good man or one of the good ones, what that means is he doesn't hit her or anyone else that she knows of. He is not verbally or emotionally abusive. He sometimes helps out around the house, and maybe even sometimes without her having to ask. He is a parent to his own children without complaining. And that's about it. Sometimes there's like really fun add-ons like, ooh, he says he's a feminist, or he supports me in my dreams, or, things like that. But like the baseline, he's a good guy, he's a good man. It's just like, yeah, he's not an abusive, misogynistic piece of shit. And that's sad. Like the bar is on the floor, you could trip over it. And like we think we've like hit the jackpot if we just find someone who like just doesn't abuse us. They don't think that we're less than them because we're female. We're like, wow, boy, am I a lucky one. I found a good one. And it's bullshit. It's bullshit that these are the standards that we have. And again, it's not saying that the people who we describe as good are not good, but I'm saying that the standard is on the floor of the basement. It's like, you don't abuse me? Okay, you're a good guy then. Like, how is that? Like, there should be more. Like, the expectation should be higher, Like, it should be more than just, you're not a piece of shit, so that means you're good. Like, there should be more than that. It should be higher. And if you follow me on Facebook, which if you don't, you should, Mosaic in Progress, you will have noticed over the last week or so, I've been posting some videos from TikTok, which kind of inspired this episode. I was sent one that was a stitch with another one, and I posted those two, and then I posted some after that were related, and it was all talking about misogyny and patriarchy. And the first couple that I posted, it was a video from a woman who had dated women and trans people her whole life and had recently started dating cishet men. And she was like, boy, wow, this is amazing. These people are garbage. And she came at it from like an anthropological standpoint of like, ooh, I'm going to study them. This is fascinating. Why are they so different from everyone else I've dated? And she goes into it in the video. And if you don't have Facebook and you want the video, send me an email, mosaicinprogress@gmail.com, and I will send you the links. Or hit me up on Instagram if you have Instagram. That one is also at Mosaic in Progress. But this woman was talking about just the huge difference in viewpoint as far as station in the world and relation to other people. And the video that was a response to it, this woman talks about how if you are a woman in a heteronormative relationship with a cishet man, you will spend the entire rest of your life, if you commit to them for life, educating this person on how to be in a relationship with you. And it is true, because similarly to how we as white people do not understand our privilege and how little we are affected by so many things that people who are not white are affected by every single day, men are completely unaware of how much as women we deal with, and not just biologically, the quote good men, a lot of them recognize that, like, wow, y'all go through a lot, periods and purity culture and stuff like that, but like they don't get it. They don't get all of the nuances and subtleties that happen to us every single day, and the extremely different way in which we are raised from how they are raised. And I bring up how we are raised because it was something that struck me with the shooting that happened in the school near Nashville a few months ago, I believe it was. And the article came out, or the headlines, they were all like, a woman shot up a school. And I was like, what is even, like, all of the mass shootings we hear about, it's all men. And we're like, there's something wrong with the men. And I saw that it was a woman, and I was like, ooh, things are getting even more serious. And then I read the article, and I don't mean this in any way to say that she was anything other than what she claimed to be, or in anything against trans people, but she was a trans woman, which means that she was raised as a male. She was raised as a little boy, and this is nothing against saying that she wasn't a real woman or anything like that. I am speaking to how she was raised. We raise our boys differently than we raise our girls in this society, don't we? We raise them to not honor their feelings, boys. The only feeling that is valid and justifiable for them is anger and rage. And a very acceptable way to show that is through violence against whoever, quote, made you angry. That's how we raise our boys. Violence is the answer to your anger. And then we send them off to war for our government and corporate interests. That's another subject. But in this society, we raise our little boys to grow up and be fighting men. That's our societal standard. And it has been for a really long time. And then we wonder why these people who we raised as fighters and told to suppress every emotion but anger grow up to become violent, abusive, emotionally detached people. And even the ones with, quote, good parents who really tried still have this issue because they are influenced by society and societal standards and their peers who were taught that and who propagate that, even if their parents specifically didn't. And so we've created a society of dangerous men, and they like to brag about it. So many of them, I'm a dangerous man, I'm on the edge, it'd just take a little bit to set me off. And I'm like, that's not a good thing. Don't brag about that. Maybe talk to somebody about that, like a therapist. Like, why do you need everyone to be afraid of you? And that's what they want. They want everyone to be afraid of them. And it is not a wonder that violent crime and domestic abuse is so high in this country when we have that mentality, that attitude, that way of raising our boys to be detached from their emotions and to express their anger through violence. And we teach them that you can't let anyone get the upper hand. You can't let anyone be stronger than you. And that doesn't just mean other boys, it also means women. And so it's no wonder that so many men try to subjugate their partners, their wives, their girlfriends, and keep them pinned under them so that they can feel stronger, they can feel superior, they can feel that they have the upper hand because they think that they have to have the upper hand at all times, and if they don't, then they have failed as a man. Prior to meeting my now husband, I heard a lot in women's circles that marriage really only benefits men. And the only benefit that women really get from it is societal acceptance. And I thought that's such a pessimistic point of view when I first heard it. And I thought, wow, these are like really kind of the bra burning, men hating feminists that my parents warned me about. And I didn't necessarily discredit it immediately, but I didn't give it any space to sit with. I didn't really consider it or think about it. And the older I get, the more I realize that they really had a point. Because in our society, in the way that it is structured now, with most of the time men and women working, the women still do the majority of the housework and the childcare. And so we're still living in that kind of 1950s housewife kind of setup with the woman doing all the housework and the childcare, but she also has a full-time job. And if she asks for help, which they're two grown people, she shouldn't have to ask for help. She shouldn't have to say what needs to be done to another adult person who is living in the house. It should be obvious to anyone who is using the house what needs to be, who's living in the house, what needs to be done. But if she asks for help, then it becomes this like, either you're nagging me, you're asking too much of me, or, you know, it's like, let me stand up on this pedestal and have you give me all kinds of accolades because I did this like one thing for you that you asked me to do. And I'm not saying that this is what every man does, but it is a very typical scenario where they don't want to participate in childcare or housework, even though she is working outside the home just as much, sometimes even more, than he is, and contributing just as much financially, or oftentimes even more, and still doing the majority of the work in the house while it's expected of her. It is expected of her to be the one who provides the meals, to be the one who keeps the house clean, to be the one who provides the childcare. And even if, you know, it might be like a step-parent situation where it might not be explicitly expected of her to provide the childcare, she often becomes the default parent because, again, emotional unavailability. Children don't want someone who's emotionally unavailable. They want someone who is emotionally available, and so they default to the woman because men didn't learn how to be emotionally available because they were taught that that means you're vulnerable, and vulnerable is bad if you're a man. And so what women get out of marriage is societal acceptance. People are like, yeah, you did it. You did what you're supposed to do because your entire purpose on this earth is to be a man-pleasing woman, baby-making machine. Man-pleasing, baby-making machine. That's what we are thought of. Whether people will explicitly say that or not, that's how we're thought of. That's how we think of ourselves. Because isn't that what we always ask everyone? Do you have anybody special in your life? Gonna get married soon? Oh, you're married? Good. What about kids? You're not married? Well, you better get on that. Those eggs aren't getting any younger. You're running out of them, Better hurry up. And that's all that we really consider as far as life. It's just get married, have kids. Like, we've not, like, mentally evolved beyond basic biology. It's just reproduction. Keep the species going. It doesn't matter that we're using up more resources than we can produce, than the earth can produce. Just, keep it going. Keep making them babies. And so we get that societal acceptance, like, good girl, you did what you were supposed to. Landed you a man. Maybe he's even a good one. And then the societal acceptance quickly goes into, well, when are you having kids? And we treat women who are childless, whether it's by choice or not her choice, we treat them like the dregs of society. They're like the absolute worst. You'll hear them called selfish. If it's something that's not her choice, then everyone just wants to feel horrifically sorry for her, even if she didn't want kids, or is not in a position to have them. If she has any kind of infertility, well, it's just the worst thing that could ever happen to you. And she's treated like, somebody who's just got something horribly wrong with them. She might be one of the best, brightest, smartest people in the world, but if she can't have kids, well, what really even is she? What is she really even worth? And we tie the worth of women into their association with a man and their ability to reproduce, with the latter being the more important, because a single mother will be treated much better than a childless married woman. Because a childless married woman is selfish. A single mother is a martyr. Now, I'm not saying that either one of those women are treated well in any respect by society. Single mothers are certainly treated badly, but they are treated better than a childless woman, even if she's married. Because people will say, look at her doing it all for her kids. Look how strong she is. But a woman who is married and without kids is just selfish. And that's how she's treated. And that's how she's talked about. And it affects every station in life. It affects jobs. And people will talk about how bad it is for her husband that because of her, he can't have kids. Either because of her selfishness or because of her malfunctioning body. And people will talk to her and try to push things on her, like adoption and fertility treatments and finding surrogates and all kinds of things that are absolutely none of their business. Because our worth as women has been limited to being breeding cattle for men. And if the relationship is anything outside of, quote, traditional, then she's seen as even less, because people who choose not to get legally married or have a ceremony or whatever, the woman is viewed as pathetic. Like, people will kind of form their opinions about the man, but they mostly form their opinions about the woman. Like, look what she's allowing. How could she allow him to treat her like that? Because the onus is always put on women How could you allow that? 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 It's never like, why did you beat your wife? Why did you rape that woman? Why can't you get it together and take care of the woman who you say that you love? Why can't you give her some respect in society? It's never put on the men. It's always put on the women. Like, why are you allowing that? And there is a certain amount of responsibility to allowing people to treat you a certain way. But when it comes to the viewing of the relationship by society, the shame always goes to the woman. I have known more people looking down at a woman who has been raped as if she's worth less than I have known people who looked badly at a man because of how he treated women. And that goes back to, the other episode where we talked about rapists and rape victims. Everybody knows a rape victim, but nobody knows a rapist. Maybe that's because you're not holding men accountable. Maybe it's because you don't have conversations with people that are hard. Maybe it's because you would rather feel sorry for a woman and look down on her as her life has been ruined than you would to go to your friend and say, we're not friends anymore because I know what you did and it's not okay. And I'm not okay with the fact that you did it. And I will not be pretending like you didn't do it. I will not be allowing you to continue a relationship with me as if you are an innocent person. And it all ties together. You can't talk about rape culture without talking about misogyny and patriarchy, because they all support each other. It's like a really twisted, fucked up symbiotic relationship where one supports the other. And they all kind of build on each other to create this really awful power structure that just treats women like objects. So we've got this huge problem. What do we do with it? Because for as long as I've been having these conversations, I've heard women saying, like, we have to find the good men. We have to get them to, speak to their friends because men don't listen to women. Which is true. They don't. We get dismissed. We get caught emotional. Anytime we bring up problems, it becomes like our problem that we're bringing it up, or the way that we bring it up, or the fact that we're just too emotional and feeling too much about their situation in the first place. Like, how do we tackle this? Because hoping that good men will come along and speak up for us is a terrible strategy. It hasn't worked. And I think one of the biggest things that we can do is stop making enemies of each other. We look at women with so much jealousy and so much insecurity, whether it's, I want to look like her, or I want to have what she has, or whatever. We have so much jealousy and insecurity about other women. And most of it boils down to their ability to attract and hold a man. And when we view other women as competition, what we are doing is we are saying that our safety, our security, our most basic need as humans can only be met by a man. And we can only have that need met by a man if we know how to catch one and keep him. And so we become these like hunters, like trying to catch prey and hold on to it. And we view other women as if they are threatening our ability to have that safety and security. And to an extent, there's some truth in that, but only if we allow that to continue to be the narrative. And we don't have to. We can have jobs now and credit cards and everything, because there was so many women before us who fought so that we could vote and have credit cards and have jobs that we didn't have to get our husband or father's permission for. And it hasn't been that long since that was not true. Within my mother's lifetime, women gained the ability to have a credit card in their own name without their husband's permission. Like, it was like literally you couldn't. And when financial resources are controlled, doesn't matter who it is that's controlling them. If you're not one of the ones controlling them, you're fucked. You are stuck wherever you're at. This is one of the biggest things in abusive relationships, is that financial abuse is a huge part of it. If you are not allowed to get a job, if you do not have, your name on the house or the car or whatever, then you don't have any financial security or ability to make a clean break. You just get fucked out of everything. And having that financial control over someone keeps them there. Because they can't, just use the income that they make from their job, because they don't have a job. They can't make sure you don't just kick them out of their house because their name isn't on it. They can't try to make sure that they get the car or one of the cars because their name isn't on it. And you see this so much in abusive relationships. We didn't just have some abusive relationships. We had an entire society structured around the dynamic of an abusive relationship. And it hasn't been that long ago. There are people alive who remember what it was like before it was the case that things are as they are now, where women could have jobs and credit cards. So what do we do? How do we change this? And it becomes so overwhelming and frustrating when you think about it. You just want to set fire to it and tear the whole thing down immediately, because it's so toxic and so awful to everyone involved. And if you think that men aren't hurt by misogyny and patriarchy, ask a man to talk about how he feels. Just any of them. Any man that you know. Because if a man can't talk about how he feels to his friends, to people who he loves and who love him, people who he trusts, what kind of life does he have? Like, how bad would it be to just not be able to tell people what's going on with you and how you feel? It's miserable. It eats away at you. This is why men have so many problems with strokes and heart attacks in our society. It's not just our unhealthy diet and exercise or lack thereof. It's the fact that we don't deal with our feelings, especially men. They think they're weak if they go to therapy. It's not like, oh, I want to make sure that I have a healthy relationship with myself and my partner and anyone else in my life. It's like, I'm weak and I'm fucked up because I got to go talk to a shrink. That is their attitude. The majority of them. Patriarchy hurts men too. Putting the expectation of financial provider without anything else. Like, you get the money, that's it. Like, you can ignore the house, you can ignore the kids. Nobody's going to care about how you feel because you shouldn't be talking about it anyway. Like, that's a horrible way to live. And that's such a reduction of men as whole human beings. And I'm talking about women in the majority of this episode because I am one. And I can speak to that experience a whole lot more. But the fact that we reduce men to just Neanderthal-like, angry, violent providers also hurts them. They are not allowed to be whole humans in our society. They're seen as weak if they are. So I think, as with every societal issue, the answer is always your neighbors. And that's a bit cliche, but everything starts at home and next door. Any change. First, you change yourself. And when you change yourself, you change how you interact with the rest of the world. You change your personal interactions. You change how you're relating to your partner. And then you change how you're relating to the people who live next door to you. And you change how you're relating to the people who you work with and your friends. And you start calling out the bullshit. And you don't even have to, do it in a big way. You don't have to go march somewhere with picket signs or make angry social media posts or anything else. You can just call it out when you hear it, when you see and hear the bullshit, the patriarchal, misogynistic bullshit at work. You stop it. You don't just laugh it off. You don't be silent. You don't just listen to it and keep going. You call it out. And when you call it out, either people will be curious and you can have a conversation about it, or people will stop speaking that way around you. And if they stop speaking that way around you, that means that they know it is an uncomfortable subject for some people, and they're going to have their radar up. Who else can I not talk like this around? Which will eventually get into their brain of, this is not an appropriate way to speak. This is not an appropriate topic. And I'm not saying they're going to have a huge heart change because of it. But stuff like that plants a seed. And not all seeds grow, but some do. And your only responsibility is to plant a seed, because you can't change people. And you can't really change society, but you can certainly change how you show up in it. You can change how you raise your children. You can change how you speak to other people's children. And I'm not saying, step on anybody's toes or anything like that, but you can change the influence that you have, and you can make it a bigger influence. And I think that is the root of anything. When you see a societal problem, the way to change it is change how you show up. Change yourself and change how you show up. It's a huge problem. It is deeply rooted. It is down into our soil, and I don't think it will change in my generation or the one after that or the one after that, but I think we can make incremental changes. And I think incremental changes are the best way to make changes, because so often, whenever we see a huge problem in society, we try to make such big sweeping changes that what we end up doing is making a giant pendulum swing in the opposite direction. And it's the same problem, just a different color. And I don't think that is ever a good answer. I think incremental changes bring us closer to balance. And I hope that we can achieve that someday in the very near future. And I hope that you will join me next week on the podcast as we both continue to work on our mosaic in progress. Addendum: if you are local to Chattanooga, Tennessee, and would like to have a tarot reading done by me, then you should come out to Ventress Southside next Saturday, June the 3rd. They are having a white elephant pop-up. There will be tons of vendors there. It's going to be a really awesome event. It is going on from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And you should come check it out and come see me and have your cards read.